Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Poly plus more equals us. I can't believe this is already episode 4. We've been doing this for a whole month now. In this episode, we talk about the incident, the cheating incident. We go into great detail about it. If you want to hear kind of like the overview, we talk about it in episode 1 at the very end, and it kind of bleeds over into episode 2. So if you want to hear the whole backstory, go back and listen to those 2 episodes. But for now, we're gonna just dive right into that whole incident, how exactly it happened, and more of Mike's side of the story. In episodes 1 and 2, you really hear it from my perspective, but there's, so much more to it. And so we get into Mike's side of the story, and we really talk about how hard it was for both of us and how we really had to work through all of that and our feelings and our emotions. And it was a hard time for our relationship. So we talk about how we worked through that and how we came out the other side having an even better relationship. So hopefully this helps for anyone who is maybe experiencing this or has gone through this. Hopefully this helps. So, okay, let's get right into it. All right, hello, and welcome to the next episode of Poly plus more equals us. I'm Elisa. This is Mike. We are the us. Okay, today we're going to talk about cheating. We're going to talk about the incident that led us to where we are now. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes of our podcast, I would suggest going back and listening to that because we go into more detail there. I'll give a brief overview, but if you want to hear the whole story, definitely go back. I start talking about it at the very end of the first episode, and then it goes into the beginning of the second episode. So basically, as a recap, this was the beginning of 2017. I was going line dancing all the time, and I met a guy that I had this crazy connection with, and I started seeing him every week when I would go out line dancing, and we would just talk and we would hang out, and nothing ever happened. But I developed feelings for him, and I really was enjoying hanging out with him. But at the same time, I was having a lot of guilt and confusion around my feelings for Mike and what that meant for my relationship with Mike, because I didn't know how to be in love with Mike but also have feelings for this other guy. It didn't make sense to me. And so finally one night I ended up sleeping with this other guy, and then the next day telling Mike about it. And that's, how from that conversation, that's how we decided to open up our relationship and be polyamorous. So there's so much more detail about everything I just said in those first 2 episodes. So go back and check those out if you want to hear. But today we're going to get into more detail on Mike's side of the story and what was happening with him, because we haven't really talked about that yet.
All right.
Take it away.
So, yeah, I mean, this was a really, kind of painful and bumpy road to the decision to be polyamorous.
Yeah.
Definitely would not recommend this route for anybody.
No, definitely not.
I'm sure it happens somewhat often. But yeah, I think bringing up these, the thought of wanting to date other people, just with your significant other beforehand and really talking about it is the clear and obvious way to go.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, this needs to be talked about more. That's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because I feel like if I had really known other people or just heard about relationships like this, then things would have been different. I would have been able to navigate my feelings a little bit better. I probably would have been able to have a conversation with Mike and not be as scared about that. So, yeah, we definitely don't recommend things happening the way that they did, but here we are.
But it happens like this, so
it does.
Here's our story to tell.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess, just to kind of summarize my feelings and my thoughts around the whole issue, was that I was just very blindsided. First off, because Elisa never really brought up the fact that she was really into this guy. Like, she would tell me that she'd met this guy and that guy, but it was like never a big deal or never a concern of mine, because I just thought that they were just random guys that she was meeting. So I wasn't really concerned about that, and yeah, just the whole way that the realization and the understanding and the finding out that Elisa had cheated was just so rough. So pretty much what happened is that Elisa had gone out the night before, and she never come back home that morning, and so I was supposed to go into work.
It was a Thursday.
It was a Thursday? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Thursday, so we were both supposed to be going into work.
Yeah. And so here I am. I wake up, and I look over, and Elisa's not in bed. And I'm like, oh, God, where is she? So I start freaking out. I'm trying to call her phone, and she's not picking up. I guess she was just super hungover at this point and sleeping still.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, of course, so I'm just trying to do whatever I can to figure out what's going on. And so I call our roommate at the time, who had gone out with Elisa the night before too, and then she kind of didn't give me a straight answer. She just pretty much said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know where she is. I left with this other guy, and I don't know where Elisa is." So I was like, "Okay, who knows where she is? The only other person that would have known is our roommate. She doesn't know." And so after trying to call Lisa many times, I'm like, okay, I actually have her iPhone, find my iPhone password. So I can go see where her phone is located. And so I find out where it is, and it's pretty close to the Hermosa Pier, where her and her roommate had gone out the night before. And so I go over there, just in my mind, the thought of cheating obviously has crossed my mind, but I'm also just more concerned about your well-being and your whereabouts.
Yeah.
That's my number one concern. Because I didn't know if you were kidnapped or what.
Yeah.
Your mind can go to some pretty wild places in that situation.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Yeah. And so my ultimate goal is I just want to make sure you're safe, figure out where you are, and then we can deal with the rest later.
Yeah.
And so I go over to this apartment complex where, the general radius of the Find My iPhone icon is showing. And so I go over there, and I'm just okay, well, I hop the fence to get into the complex, and so I'm okay, I'm in now, and okay, so now what?
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of hanging out, and a few people walk by me, and they're kind of what is this guy doing here? He's just sitting outside, and I was so stressed and worried. I was whatever, I don't care what these people think.
Yeah.
I have other things to worry about. And so at one point, I'm just kind of yelling Elisa's name, in the middle of this courtyard, and just trying to see if she can hear me or if she's anywhere and I can get a response. So I get no response. I don't know, maybe after 45 minutes, I'm just okay, this is pointless. I'm just gonna assume that she's with somebody and just go home and just wait it out.
Yeah, and I do have to say that we heard you.
Yeah.
But we didn't. I can remember hearing something outside and being what was that? And I couldn't tell that it was my name or that it was you or anything. And I remember looking out the window and seeing somebody walking. And I'm gonna guess that was you. but like I remember like hearing something and being like, what was that?
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I was also pinging the phone. I was in like the.
Yeah. Well, I had turned my phone off at that point.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, you guys had like, you had heard the buzz or like the pinging, right?
Yeah, the first time.
Yeah.
And that's why I turned my phone
It's
off.
pretty loud.
Because I was freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I didn't know this at the time, but Elisa was super hungover and I guess
Yeah.
hiding out, I guess you'd say.
Kind of.
Just
I
waiting,
mean, I
waiting
didn't
to
know.
like feel better so you could like deal with the situation.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that that was you there. Obviously, later, I realized, oh shit, that was you. And you were like there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were like at the apartment that I was at.
Yeah.
But but I was super hungover and freaking out and didn't know what to do. And so, yeah, I just wanted to like sober up and sleep a little bit more before I came back and, yeah, had to deal with it because I was feeling like shit for many reasons.
Yeah. So I go home and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch TV. I just need to like do something to distract myself as best I can. So I'm just gonna like watch TV and just wait this out. And I think I was maybe home for like an hour.
So you called out from work.
Yeah, I called out from work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I maybe waited like an hour. I can't remember exactly, but you came home like later in the, I think it was like late morning, early afternoon.
Yeah, I came home around like noon or 1 or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, thank God, like she's okay.
Yeah.
But like, all right, now I need to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Because like this is like, to me, I was like, this is totally unacceptable. First off, like I had to miss work.
Yeah.
Like you didn't tell me where you were. Like this is like, I was just so angry.
Yeah.
And but I was like, yeah, I was like angry and scared, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you know, you have to explain to me what the heck is going on here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember meeting you at the back door of our apartment.
Yeah, I do too.
And
I told you like as soon as I walked in.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't lie about this, you know. I have to be honest about it. And yeah, I remember meeting at the back door, coming inside, and just being like, I cheated.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, at that point, like that's all you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It would eventually have come out, so there's no point like trying to hide it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, okay, like at that point, I was like, okay, like I kind of figured it was gonna be that.
Yeah.
Because of course, like, why would you be gone for the night if it wasn't that?
Yeah.
For the most part, unless you were like just really drunk and like passed out somewhere. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, in my mind, the odds were that happened. Like, so I'm like, okay, like this is obviously like super painful. First off, like you never told me this. I felt completely betrayed.
Yeah.
Like, you'd lost like pretty much all my trust at that point. And yeah, I mean, I was just trying to figure out how to deal with like all this like anger and frustration and pain that I was experiencing at the time. And it was difficult because on one side there was like all this pain and anger, as I mentioned, but on the other side I was like we've had such a good relationship up to this point, and you know, I have so much love and like respect for you. So it's like now I need to decide, like, was this like a big enough transgression that like it's gonna outweigh like the love I have for you, or is it something that I can forgive and that we can, you know, talk about and like, I don't know, help rebuild and like strengthen our relationship.
Yeah. And
so in my mind, I don't know, I feel like I actually made up my mind pretty early on, and I was like I already know like I love you so much, and obviously something is going on with you right now that I don't understand. So like I'm just going to like, I'm still gonna like be angry and get this anger out, but like at the same time I'm gonna like love you and listen to you and just like hear what you have to say. And unless it's like just so despicable like that, I won't. I think I would just lose all like respect for you. Like I'm gonna hear you out, and like I'm gonna give you a chance.
Sorry, yeah, I'm like getting emotional. Before we started filming, it was funny because I was saying like this was so long ago, I can't even remember some of the details, but now it's like, now that we're filming and now that you're talking, it's like, yeah, so a lot of it is coming back, and like, it's making me emotional.
Yeah, I mean, it was not an enjoyable time period, to
No,
say the
it
least.
wasn't. No, but also to hear you say that, like, you had made your decision pretty quickly, you know. I guess I didn't really know that. Um and also, yeah, to hear, like, you know, to hear you say that that's what you were going to do, was like listen and be patient and love me even though you were so hurt. Like, that's exactly what you did. But that takes so much. Like, I feel like you have to be such a good person to do that, and I don't know if I would have done that, or maybe not as quickly as you did. I'm sure maybe I would have gotten there, but it would have been, I don't know. My ego and my pain would have just been like, I would have just put it up right away and blocked it and just been so angry and just let my anger, like,
Yeah, to lead the way.
yeah, like, lead the way so much that if it had been reversed, it probably would have taken so much longer, because I would have held on to that anger and that pain so much. And so to think about how I would have responded, and then think about how you responded and how it was so different, it's like, yeah, it makes me emotional, because I'm like, fuck. Like, you
But yeah,
know?
I feel like, our friends who like know us really well, and even just like ourselves, like those are just like who we are.
I know.
Like, you always like wear your emotions on your sleeve. I'm a little more, I don't know, a little more patient and understanding at times.
Yeah. Well,
But sometimes
yeah.
to a detriment though, because sometimes I'm just like, that's not always a good thing. Like, to not. Well, I think it's always a good thing to be patient and try to understand, but you also have to draw a line and stand up for yourself too.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if we hadn't, you know, created the relationship that we had to that point, and it
Yeah.
wasn't strong enough, then I would have been like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
So it really was like, what was that, year and a half we've been dating up to that point. Like, all the amazing things we'd done in that year and a half.
Yeah.
Like that, that was stronger and like overpowered all the pain.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then so after Lisa got back, and we had this like short conversation in the doorway, we went to the living room couch and we sat and talked for, well, we talked for what, like,
No.
I can't remember. There was one point where like I stormed out and I was super pissed.
Yeah.
And I broke my phone. I threw my phone against the wall and it just like obliterated it.
Sorry, it's funny now.
Yeah.
It was not
Well,
funny then.
yeah, it sucks. I was so mad, and then I was
Yeah.
like, "Crap! Now I don't have a phone."
Yeah. He was.
It was just,
Yeah. I think we had sat down on the couch and maybe talked for a little bit, but yeah, you were pissed, and you threw your
Yeah.
phone and it broke, and that was really scary.
Oh yeah, I got so mad at that point because that's when you had told me like this kind of how much you had like not told me and how much you had kind of lied up to that point.
Yeah.
And that's because for me it wasn't. I mean, like even to today, like the whole reason, like, or like a big reason I'm okay with being polyamorous is like I don't feel like like I'm the only person that can sleep with you. Like I don't need to be like that possessive. Like, oh, you're mine and only mine. So like the fact that you slept with someone else, even though we hadn't talked about it at the time, but like that kind of forced me to come to the conclusion, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it was everything else that came along with that whole situation. It was the lying, the not being transparent and open from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so it was all like, yeah, I was just like, because that just creates like a huge shock to your system when you first hear it, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it makes it so much worse than if it had just like, been a little much more gradual from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So So yeah, you were really angry, as you know would be expected. You threw your phone, and then you were like, I have to leave. I have to get out. And so you left. And then I had school. I had school, so I was like, well, if you're not going to be home here talking about this with me, then I'm going to go to school. And I was also just trying to get my mind off of things too and sort of process everything. And so I was like, if he's not going to be here, I'm not going to be here. So I drove to school, which was like an hour away. And then as soon as I got to school, you called me and you were like, where are you? And I remember school was supposed to start in like 10 minutes. And you were like, where are you? And I was like, I went to school. I told you. And you were like, well, I'm here and I want to talk now. And I was like, okay. So I texted my classmates and I was like, family emergency, not going to be in class, and drove straight back.
I forgot that part.
Yeah. I think you had gone to like try and get a new phone or something.
I tried to get a new phone and I couldn't get one at that point for some reason. I
Yeah.
had like the phone insurance and decided to like file some online claim.
Yeah.
And so like I couldn't get the phone, but then I was also like still wanted to cool off, so I like went to some park and just like walked around aimlessly for who knows how long. I don't know, an hour or so.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the time I got back, I was like, where the heck are you? I thought we were going to talk.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you came back and we talked practically the whole night, just trying to figure out. I was just trying to understand, like, what was going on with you.
Yeah.
Like, what led you to do this? Like, what's going on, like, in your head?
Yeah.
What are you feeling? And then, like, what are we going to do about it moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah, and so we spent, God, the next few weeks, maybe even up to a month, just, this was like all we could talk about, and just talking, trying to work through it and work through our feelings, and then also like, okay, well, because pretty early on, I'm pretty sure it was that night when I came back from school and we were talking, I'm pretty sure it was that night when I said, this is going to happen again. And so not only were we dealing with like our own feelings of what had just happened, but also that like I wanted to open up the relationship. And so we put that on the table like that same night. And so it was a lot. We were working through all of that, and then once we had kind of worked through our feelings more, then also like, okay, but then what is this going to look like moving forward? How do we do this moving forward? It was a lot.
Yeah, and I also just didn't, I had a lot of like distrust in you too. I remember being like, oh, like, tell me who you're going to be, like, where you're going, who you're going to be hanging out with, who you're going to see there.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't trust you to not do that again.
Yeah.
When it was, like, so, like, raw and painful still.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for like the first month, I wasn't going out, I wasn't going line dancing, I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you just didn't trust me. And so, yeah, I just stayed home and we just kind of like hung out and worked through everything we needed to work through. And we went on a trip actually that weekend. And at first I asked you, I was like, do you still want me to go with you on this trip this weekend? Because we were supposed to leave like the next day. I think we were supposed to leave on like Friday morning or something. Mm-hmm. And this was Thursday. And at first you said no. At first you were like, no, I don't want you to go on this trip with me. And I was like, okay, fair. Because we were going to San Francisco to hang out with a bunch of our friends. But then I think later that day or later that night, you changed your mind. And the reason you said was because you just didn't trust me. And you were like, you didn't want to be away for the entire weekend not knowing what I was doing because you just didn't trust me.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
And I like didn't want to. I also didn't want to.
Be worrying.
I don't want to be worrying about it. I also just didn't want to like put myself in a situation where I have to explain where you were because I was just so not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah.
I was like, just let's just go pretend like everything is normal, even though it's not.
Yeah.
And like we were able to like enjoy ourselves still, like with our friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like enjoy the city too. But yeah, I mean, there were moments like while we were hanging out where it was just like, you just feel like that pain and like that. For me, it was like that betrayal, like that deep hurt.
Yeah.
From like what had just happened. Like I just would have to like go outside and just get a breath of fresh air and just talk to Elise and be like, yeah, like I'm still like upset, like I'm still so mad right now, and I just need to like cool down so I can go back and like be my normal like self and have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the aftermath was tough.
Yeah.
A lot of talking. I feel like we had a lot of the same conversations over and over again, just kind of like
Yeah. We did, but that's because we were trying to work through it, and even though we were having the same conversations and sort of saying the same things, it was like we had to, because it was like we were processing, and then we would have the same conversation, and then we would feel differently about it, and so we would process that, and then we would have the same conversation, and it would feel different, and we would process, so it was like as we were processing our own feelings and then going over everything again, like that's how we were working through it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we had a lot of the same conversations many times, but it's because that's just where we were at and how we were, getting through everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just kind of figuring out and like setting rules for like what we wanted to do moving forward.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like we weren't going to be dating anyone new at that point, so it was too soon.
Yeah.
But it was kind of just, yeah. I guess a lot of it was actually just understanding where you were coming from.
Yeah.
And like what you were feeling.
Yeah.
And you just like realizing like there was that whole like, in your past relationships you had kind of ended them after 2 to 2.5 years, and we were kind of coming up to that point.
Yeah, we were coming up to the 2-year mark.
Yeah, actually, I was only 3 months away.
Mm-hmm.
So there was kind of like a self-sabotage,
yeah,
like thing going on, and then just you realizing that you wanted to also explore these feelings with other people you're having and be polyamorous.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't fully like, I guess, know that at the time. Like maybe you knew it, but you just didn't like you didn't put like a title.
Yeah.
Or like a, yeah, you just didn't put a title to it.
Yeah.
You weren't like, this is like who I am, this is what I want to be. It was just like, yeah, I was just kind of clunky.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, but
yeah.
eventually got there.
You were the one who said the term polyamorous, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I know what that is, or like,
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, or like I had like heard of it before, but I didn't really know. But you were the one that said that. It was really interesting because I was trying to explain my feelings to you, and I was trying to tell you about like, here's the pattern that I'm noticing now from past relationships. Like we talked about in the last episode, like here's this pattern that I'm noticing, but I didn't really know like exactly what that meant, but you were the one that was like, oh, so you want to open the relationship. And then you were the one that was like, oh, that sounds like polyamory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I guess so, but so that was like new to me. And so I was like, okay, I need to find out what does that even mean? What is polyamory? And so, and it wasn't until then that I was like, oh, okay, maybe that is something that I want. And so it was really through that conversation, you were the one that like put a label to it. I was just trying to explain what I had been feeling and how I wanted to be able to live moving forward. And yeah, and you were the one that was like, oh, here's the label for that. And I was like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was maybe like a month after like the whole incident had happened that then you felt like, okay, like I could at least like go out dancing again. But I wasn't allowed to see that guy again. And he stopped going anyway because this whole thing sort of like, you know, is a lot. So he wasn't there anyway. But yeah, that was like the rule. You were after like about a month, you were like, okay, you can go back out, but like again, I need to know where you're going, who's going to be there, and you're not allowed to hang out with him anymore. And then maybe like a few months later, I feel like things had gotten kind of back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Mexico actually for my birthday. And that was only a little bit after. It was like a month and a half later, remember?
Oh yeah. That was, yeah, end of March. So
Yeah, because because I had spring break from school, and it was over the week of my birthday, which is the last week of March. So we went to Mexico, and we had a great time on that trip.
yeah, I think by that point we talked so much and like figured out. I had a better understanding of why you did what you did, and I understood it, and it wasn't like, obviously it wasn't like you were just like being a bad person and saying like, oh, screw you, I don't care how you feel, like I'm gonna go do whatever I want, and like I'm not gonna care about you. You were just like you were fighting this internal battle.
Yeah.
And really trying to like you were being pulled in like two different directions.
Yeah.
And so I mean you were able to like I was able to like understand you enough where I was like, okay, like I can work with that, and like we can like build from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like any deep pain, just takes time to heal and move on.
Yeah.
And so I think by that point, yeah, we were in a good spot again.
Yeah. Plus, it was just the two of us on the beach, drinking, drinking mojitos or whatever, having a good time in the water, crystal clear water. Oh, it was so nice.
Yeah, that was a fun trip.
Yeah, remember
Super
that
relaxing.
sandbar that was like way out there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just like wade into like the ocean a little bit, and then there's this elevated sandbar. You can just
it was like you had to swim out to it. Like I couldn't touch, like it was kind of far out there, but once you swam out to it, the sandbar was high enough so it was like out just in the middle of the ocean, but you could stand on it, but the waves had already broken. And so like, cause it was far enough out that the waves didn't really start until closer in. Yeah. What?
Yeah, you have a good memory with those things. I didn't remember that.
You didn't remember that?
I remember the beautiful weather, just like the white sandy beach.
Yeah.
The turquoise water. Yeah, I mean it was beautiful.
Yeah.
That's Playa del Carmen, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, then we met some other like young couples who were traveling too, and talked to them and got to know them. So yeah, it was a fun trip.
Yeah. Played soccer on the beach.
Yeah, played some beach soccer. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, I guess what we're trying to say is at that point, like everything was good.
Yeah.
Like, we were back to normal, and then just over the next couple years, we talked more about the polyamory thing.
Yeah.
And then you started like actually experiencing that and living it before I did.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, but I mean, it definitely took some time because things got back to normal, by like mid 2017, so a few months later. And then like a year later, right at the beginning of 2018, that's when we decided to get married. And so it was almost a whole year later. From like the cheating incident, a whole year later, we decided to get married. And I mean, we had already been talking about it. We had been talking about getting married before the cheating incident. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit, but not like
Sorry?
super serious. Yeah,
Are you
cause
weren't just thinking it?
oh no, cause okay, I remember because we had gone to Snow Globe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Snow Globe we went in 2016, at the very end of 2016, and then 2 months later I cheated, right? So that's like the timeline here. And when we were at Snow Globe, it was either when we were driving there or we were driving back. I'm pretty sure when we were driving there because we drove back with other people, I think. I can't remember. But on one of the drives, we were talking about who we would pick as bridesmaids and groomsmen.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
we had that conversation, and Mike was like, he named like 12 people. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you can't have 12 groomsmen. I can only pick think of like three bridesmaids. I can't have 3 bridesmaids and you have 12 groomsmen. Like, what the heck?
You can just take some of my extra groomsmen.
I
don't
it was
want
like we would have
a difficult decision.
we would have like three men walking down the aisle like with one woman. Like that would have been the ratio.
Yeah.
So I mean, we weren't thinking about it seriously yet. We weren't thinking like, oh, this was gonna happen like super soon, kind of a thing. But I mean, we were talking about it. So but like in just like a fun way. And so like it had been on our minds. But then this happened, and obviously, then we had to focus really on our relationship again. But then, yeah, a whole year later, things were great. We had decided like, okay, we're gonna be polyamorous, and then we got married first, and then I started dating people like 6 months after that, after getting married. Yeah. All right, that's it. That's it for this week. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was insightful, and hopefully it helps you if you are in a similar situation or going through something like that. If you are enjoying this podcast, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or share it with someone who you think could benefit from it. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform you're listening on, subscribe there as well. Subscribing really helps us. It's the way that we gain traction and sort of get more visibility. When people search for a show and they put in polyamorous or ethical non-monogamy or whatever they're searching, the more subscribers we have, the further up in the search will pop up, so we'll pop up at like closer to the top of the search with more subscribers. So this helps us get our message out there and share our story with more people, and that's the whole point. So if you're enjoying this and you want to help us out, please subscribe or rate the show. Hopefully a 5-star rating, but but yeah, that's the best way to help us achieve our goal with this podcast. All right, that's it for this week, and we're looking forward to connecting next week.